You're watching the It's Her Time podcast with Cody and Jess.
I love Robyn. I love Robyn so much. I can't wait to, big hearts.
Big, huge
hearts.
Because she has a big, huge heart. She has such great energy. She's gone through so much in her life, but she's turned it into a positive. I cannot wait for you girls to listen to her story. You're going to be amazed. You're going to be inspired, and you're going to want to share it with everybody that you know.
Also, she has shown up for us for years with Mixers, like an OG supporter. Has always been a blast to work with. So before we get into the episode, let's go through Mixers Girls Say.
Yes.
And today we're going to read through a couple testimonials before we get quickly into the episode.
I love this. You girls, thank you for your testimonials, your reviews, your ratings, all of that. That's so helpful for us. We love it. Okay, this first one that I'm going to read, I'm just going to read two today. This is from Kelsa Jones. So Kelsa Jones, hopefully you're tuning in. She says, before I found Mixers, I was desperate to finding a solution to my health. I was gaining weight, had no energy, and I dreaded when my periods came. After taking Her Time for 6 months, I now have more energy, higher libido. My husband is loving this one. And I don't really notice when my period comes. I have become obsessed with learning all that I can about women's health thanks to the It's Her Time podcast. I even stopped taking formal birth control after 2 years and got my real period back after 1 cycle.
Way to go, girl.
I cannot be more grateful for the products and knowledge Mixers has given me. I will continue to share this with everyone I know.
I love this. Yes, Kelsa. Go, girl.
Thank you. Thank you. That's so awesome. Okay, let's see. I've got another one. Okay, this one is from Annie E.F. Okay, Annie E.F. I love this podcast. For the longest time, I was incredibly embarrassed and ashamed to talk about anything womanly. As I've tried to shift that, I'm so grateful for a space to listen and learn so much from these awesome women. Each topic they discuss is so beneficial, and I've learned so much. This is my go-to podcast. I love that. I love Cody and Jess, their mission and products. Annie, we love you.
We love you, Annie.
We love you. Okay.
That's so sweet.
Girls, now, this isn't going to last forever, but Jess has been feeling very generous, and she's been offering anyone that leaves a rating and review, positive rating and review. Should I throw that in there?
Positive rating and
we learned
review.
from that. Yeah.
We make mistakes too.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's okay. We want to hear what you guys want us to improve on. That's fine. Anybody that shares anything like that, you are going to get a 20% discount on any Mixers products.
What?
Yeah. That probably won't last forever. So take advantage of it while you can. But thank you. We do really appreciate that because these ratings and reviews help us to be able to grow our podcast, and they help us to be able to invite incredible guests so that you girls can learn and benefit from the knowledge of others as well. We love that you're loving this podcast, and we love bringing it to you every single week.
Yeah. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Now let's get into the episode with Robyn Warner.
Yes.
Mixers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixers.com, Mixhers.
Hi, Robyn. I'm excited for this conversation. Girls.
Hello, Cody.
Robyn is one of my favorite people in the world. I know I just introduced her, but I want her to have a chance to kind of say hi to all of you and introduce herself and tell us all a little bit about you.
Well, I would love to, and I'm so honored to be here. Like Cody said, my name is Robyn Warner, and I am a mother of 4 young children. I live here in Utah, and I am what I claim a serial entrepreneur. I have a couple different businesses that I'm really passionate about, but my most favorite topic to talk about is women's self-defense and safety. That's my kind of my main thing. And I just love helping women feel prepared and not scared, and then being able to teach their children as well.
It's so valuable. And I am so excited to have you on because I know some of our audience has heard your story and knows you and follows you on Instagram and kind of knows a little bit about you. But I know there's thousands of the listeners that have never met you yet. And I feel like, Robyn, when I heard your story, which I want you to share with all of us, you have such a way of being able to share your story in a way that feels like it's helpful for us. Like it empowered me to feel like, okay, I could feel what it felt like to have, as I'm listening to the things that you went through. And then you give us like this practical advice that is doable, right? Because I think sometimes self-defense, and we'll talk about that, the things that we go and we practice and we've gone to the classes and we've done all the things aren't always things that I feel capable of doing, especially in the moment. So I don't want to do much talking. I want you to literally just go and tell us your story. So let's start there. Let's tell our audience a little bit about how this became such a passion of yours.
Yeah. So falling into the self-defense education world was not something I had planned. And I had an experience, which I'm going to share right now, that totally changed my outlook on life, the direction I was heading, and really just steered me straight into focusing on women's safety, because the experience I had was pretty terrifying and life-changing. Oh. So I was down at college here in Utah, in Southern Utah. I was about to turn 19 years old, and I was dancing for my university, doing dental hygiene prereqs. Life was really good for me at the time. And my dance coach always asked us to run as part of our health regimen. And I actually liked running, and I had never gone running before alone, but I was just out of the nest trying to be independent. And I decided I was going to go running one day. And I actually asked my roommate to come. She ended up bailing. And I was like, you know what? No big deal. I live in Utah. It's 12 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm so safe. I'm going to go running. So those of you who are familiar with Utah, a lot of you are familiar with like the Provo River Trail. It wasn't that trail, but it's very similar in the sense that it's a public trail. It's paved. It's very well known. There's like tons of people on it at every time. It runs perpendicular, like through the city and then up into the canyon with a river in between. The only difference is the trail I was on was new and it wasn't overgrown. Like everyone could see you. Whereas I feel like the Provo Trail kind of feels dangerous in spots because it's kind of overgrown. So I felt really safe there. It was a place I had been several times before. And I walked to the trail that day and I started running, and I kept having this really weird feeling that like wild horses were going to come down and trample me. And I remember thinking like, that's so random. Like, why would I think that? But the week before, a whole bunch of horses had ran down when I was with my roommates, and I kept being like, I probably shouldn't be here alone. But my logic is like, you're fine. Like there's 20 people on this trail. So I kept running, and I realized I had forgotten my cell phone at home, but I was like, I'm just going to hurry and finish these few miles. So I kept running, and I had the feeling like, go home and get your cell phone. I didn't listen, kept running, go home and get your cell phone over and over and over. And finally it like hit me like a ton of bricks. It was like, turn around, get off this trail and get your cell phone. And I was like totally taken back. At the time, I didn't even realize it was my intuition or the spirit or whatever you like to call it. So I was like, well, there's this kid that I'm dating that I wanted to hang out with later. Maybe he's texting me, and it's like crucial to text back immediately. So I'm going to go home. So I walked home, got home, grabbed my cell phone. This cute kid had texted me, and I was like, oh my gosh, if I would have missed this text, like, 18-year-old stuff.
Yeah.
And I wasn't actually going to go back to the trail because I was like, I've already ran a couple miles, but I was like, no, I'm a rule follower. I didn't hit my 4 miles. I better go back. I walked back to the trail, and the second time I didn't feel the same as the first. I felt really uncomfortable and kind of weird, like something was going to happen. And my intuition is totally prepping me for this experience. Like something bad's going to happen here. You shouldn't be here. But my logic is like, you're fine. You're just paranoid. You're scared. And again, I saw 30 people on the trail that day. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon now. So logically you're like, I'm fine, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not in the middle of the woods at midnight alone. Like there's people here. Right. Nothing's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I kept running, and I came around the corner, and there was this man walking down the trail. And immediately my alarms went off like, something's off with him. He had a beanie on, a big like cargo backpack, big cargo pants, boots. And I was like, it's hot outside. Like, what is he wearing? Like, that's what tipped me off first. And he's going down the trail. I'm coming up, And I felt weird about it. But again, everything's happening so fast. So I passed him and I remember looking over at him and immediately my heart just dropped, like something bad's going to happen. This is a really dangerous person. But he had passed me and I turned back around to see what he was doing. And he had flipped around and he was walking up the trail now. And I'm running. So I'm still a little bit further ahead. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like, is he following me? So I'm starting to run a little faster and I look back again and he's starting to jog. I'm like, holy crap. Like he's chasing after me. But then my logic is like, it's a running trail. You're fine. Like he has every right to run on this trail. He hasn't said a word to you. He hasn't touched you. But my intuition is like, no, something really bad's going to happen. So I had a feeling to call 911. And I was like, what am I going to tell them? Like nothing's happened, but I'm just going to dial 911. So I pressed 911 into my phone and I came around the corner and it was the end of the trail. So I knew I had nowhere to go. So I flipped around and I was like, I can't drop off into this 15-foot ravine into the, river. And then at this point I was kind of up the canyon. So it's like woods and like sagebrush and trees. And I was like, what am I going to do? So I just figured I'm going to call 911. I'm going to run as fast as I can down the trail. I'm going to pass him. I just freaked myself out. Nothing's going to happen. Right. And inside I'm like, oh my gosh, no, something's going to happen. So I dialed 911. I didn't look down to see if it even connected and I just ran as fast as I could. And right when I passed him, I remember for a split second, like I had relief, like, oh, like I made it past. And then all of a sudden he just grabbed me by the neck and just clotheslined me to the floor. And I remember I was in complete shock. My phone flew out and we learn about fight or flight,
right?
But we don't ever talk about freeze. Most people freeze. And I totally froze. I don't know how long I was frozen. Nothing could come out of my mouth. I couldn't make any sort of movement. But when I came out of the freeze, what I did next actually saved my life. And it's because I had learned about it when I was 12 years old in a church activity. And it was the most basic self-defense conversation. It wasn't even a class. And immediately this woman's voice came to me and it said, yell your name and your location. So after I came out of the freeze, I started screaming, Robyn Williams Canyon Trail, I'm being raped. Robyn Williams Canyon Trail. I knew there were people on the trail.
Yeah.
I had passed them and I was hoping that my phone had called 911, but I wasn't certain. So I started screaming. He picked me up and he started taking me off the trail into the woods. And again, from this conversation when I was 12, her voice came and said, never leave the location you're attacked. Because once you do, help is no longer coming for you.
Right.
You're gone.
And you're away from your phone and
You're away. Yeah. And so the chances of you surviving after you leave a location where it happened, actually, like, it's kind of alarming how, like, don't leave the location. Okay. So I remember I kicked and screamed and like threw dirt in his eyes and bit and did anything I could. So I didn't leave that location. And I got about 10 feet off from where it originally happened, but not too far. And we struggled for a really long time. There were so many times where I would stand up and try to get away and he'd yank my ponytail back down, or I'd try to like punch him, but I'm like this tiny little girl. He's a 230-pound man and he'd slap me back. Or I was trying to get away instead of fighting back. And that's what I teach women, the difference. I wish I would have known the difference because it was not successful. I was just getting hurt and banged up. And
exhausted
exhausted. I was using all my energy to try to just get away. And I didn't actually know what to do to like save myself. So we struggled for a really long time. He sexually assaulted me. And I remember he was on top of me and he kept trying to get into his bag the whole time. And I remember thinking like, whatever's in his bag is like, it's not going to be good. Why is he so interested in getting into that? So towards the end, he was laying on top of me and with one hand, he was strangling me and I started losing consciousness. And with the other hand, he was able to get in his bag and pull out a knife and he pressed it into my throat. And I remember with both hands, just like being like, oh my gosh, like, this is it. I hope my parents find my body. I kept saying that. I hope my parents find my body. And I said a quick prayer and I just said, Heavenly Father, please help me. I have tried so hard to get away. Like, what should I do?
Right.
And immediately I had the thought, like, go for his groin. And as an 18-year-old girl who had never seen or touched a groin, I was like, no. But I just knew that's what I had to do. That was my only option. Yeah. And so he was laying on top of me and I was starting to lose consciousness. So I didn't have a ton of time. And he shifted weight and I could feel that my right hand was like free. And so I just went for his groin. I grabbed, twist, pulled. I don't even know what I did. He let go of my throat and I sat up and I was told to go for his eye. And I stuck my finger straight into his eye and just gouged as hard as I could. And he finally fell over. And I remember I was like, this is my last chance. So I jumped up and I turned to run and he grabbed my hand one last time. And instinctively, not even actually realizing what I was doing, I swung around and I caught two fingers in his mouth and fished his mouth. And that's actually what made him like hit the ground, which is so surprising. I would have never thought that.
You didn't even think to do that. It just happened. No. Okay.
Yeah. I didn't even know to do that. But that's actually something that after learning so much about self-defense, that's like a really good thing to do.
Wow.
So he hit the ground and I remember running as fast as I can back down the trail. And trauma or like traumatic experiences are so interesting because it's the craziest thing. Like I'm almost killed here. And I remember thinking as I'm running, not fully clothed, banged up and bloody, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm running so fast. I bet you the track coach would recruit me right now. Like those were my thoughts after like the most traumatic moment.
Wow.
And I'm like, why would I think that? But your brain just goes crazy places. So I'm running like probably 4-minute miles.
Yeah.
And I come around the corner and there's this kid named Casey. And I actually left this part of the story out. I don't know how he did, but I had actually seen him earlier because I thought it was a wild horse. He like came down on a longboard and I like jumped in the bushes and he
so before you saw this scary guy, you saw this kid.
Sorry,
Casey.
we'll have to backtrack. I forgot.
That's okay.
I left this out. Before I was attacked, I jumped in the bushes because I thought a horse was coming down the trail, but it was just a kid on a longboard.
Yes.
And he got off his longboard because there's a woman laying in the sagebrush. And he's like, hey, are you okay? And I was like, oh yeah, like I'm fine. I'm just laying in the woods. Like I was so embarrassed because I was like, what's wrong with me? Like I'm such a stress case. And he like pulled me up. He's like, what's your name? We exchanged names.
Wow.
He's like, my name is Casey. I'm Robyn. And he's like, are you sure you're okay? I'm like, yeah, sorry. I just do that sometimes. And I was like,
got scared. Yeah.
Yeah. And we were close to a park. So he got in his car, drove away. Now fast forward to an hour. I've been attacked. Back down the trail. And that same kid is there.
Okay.
And he was probably like 300 pounds, big, huge kid, covered in tattoos, which doesn't mean anything. But my 18-year-old self was like, danger. Like, why is he back here? I saw him leave.
Well, so especially with what just happened to you, you're not trusting anybody, right?
I'm not trusting anybody. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's 2 of them. Like he's part of this and I'm going to like, this is going to happen again. So he's calling me by name. He knows my name and he's like totally in shock. Like what happened to her? And I'm, just screaming like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. Give me your phone. And he was so kind. He had backed up off the trail and threw me his phone. I called 911 again. They had actually heard everything. They were sending up all the forces, but there was people on the trail. So they were trying to clear people off the trail. They had patrol cars and officers running up. And if I wouldn't have gotten away, they would have been there about 5 minutes. But the reason Casey's so important is I steal his phone, call 911, end up in the ambulance. I get shipped off. But Casey followed my attacker, who at the time was still chasing after me. I didn't realize it. Still chasing after me, saw that I met Casey, flipped around and started running through the mountains. And Casey was so brave, followed him into the mountains and was able to show the police where he was hiding so they could get him in custody. And the crazy part is Casey went all the way into town, sat down at the pizza factory for lunch with his fiance. And he just had a feeling like, I should go back on the trail for like one more run. And his fiance was like, oh my gosh, like if you leave me here at lunch, like I'm not going to marry you. Like, why would you just get here and leave? Yeah. And he's like, I don't know. Like I'm going. And he left. And if he wouldn't have come back, we would have never found this man and he would never have been put in prison. So he got sentenced 15 years to life. He's been in there actually 14 years now. So we're kind of going to see what happens. I was just informed that he actually got a 7-year extension for bad behavior in prison. So that's really great news.
Yeah.
But it's crazy. It just catapulted me into self-defense. So immediately after my attack, of course, when I felt healed and physically healed, I just wanted to take self-defense because I kept thinking, I don't ever want this to happen to one of my sisters or one of my friends.
Right.
And that's all it was for me. Just like, I just can never bear for this to happen. So I want to learn everything I could have done better and everything that I did good so I can teach my friends and family.
Yeah.
So I dove into all sorts of self-defense and just immediately before even the 1-year anniversary of my attack, I was already speaking to groups of women on like how to protect yourself and what I could have done better and how to avoid this happening to them. And that's where it started. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And I've been able to speak to tens of thousands of women. And it's just been really fulfilling. It's been really helpful for me to heal from this experience, but also just really beautiful to watch these women taking this education. And I've had, women tell me like, you actually saved my life. Like something you taught me, like saved my life. And that's just so fulfilling to hear, but also like, I just know this is really important.
Yeah.
So I'm passionate about teaching. And I also have 4 kids. Like I want my children to be safe. I don't ever want that to happen to them. So I'm really passionate about children's safety as well.
It's so incredible. This is why I wanted to have you as a guest on this show, because this information is something that I hope that you listeners are going to be able to learn for yourself, but then also like share the heck out of this episode because hearing Robyn's story, first of all, she's a miracle. It's a miracle that she survived this attack. It's a miracle that you were so in tune with your own instincts. And we talk about that so much on this podcast, how important it is to tune in to our own intuition and to listen to, our gut feelings. And then also this Casey guy. I mean, how grateful that this intuition was so strong and that you guys were brave enough to actually follow through with the messages that you were given. And so I love it. So yes, I've listened to this story, but every time I hear it, Robyn, I just get chills because it's just, to me, it sounds like it's the most terrifying thing ever, but I love how you've taken such a tragic and traumatic, experience, an event in your life, and you have so much purpose wrapped around it. And you're out there turning it into something really good and very helpful. So there's programs and things that you've done. I want you to tell the audience, tell us all about how you are speaking to thousands and thousands of people. Yeah.
So right out of the get-go, I just started public speaking to there's a fly over here. Yeah. Any sort of
a fly on your wall
group or church group or school. And that just kind of snowballed into, more women and more events. And then I started teaching an actual self-defense class. It's called Rad Women. And I taught it with the local police station. I taught that for years, probably 10 years. And I loved it. And we would have people come down and it was like a 4-week course where you actually learn how to fight people off at the end. There's a simulation where you actually get attacked by a cop and you have to fight them off. And I loved it so much, but I kept feeling like there was a little bit of a gap in the curriculum because it's made by males. And I was like, well, I'm a woman, first of all. I've actually been attacked. And third, I have kids. There were some things missing. So I actually went on to create my own program called Safe by Robyn. And it stands for Self-Defense, Awareness, Fighting Techniques, and Empowerment, the acronym SAFE. And I started teaching that all over. And then I was like, you know what? There's nothing online. There's no online self-defense course or ebook or anything. So I created an online course, and it's actually 18 short videos. It's 5 hours of instruction. You can binge watch it all, or you can take, course by course, but it's all online. And I found that a lot of women too, just want to learn from the privacy of their own house. And it was crazy because I did it right before COVID, not knowing that the world would shut down and I wouldn't actually be able to physically go and teach. And so it was just it was beautiful timing that I could still teach these women from their own house. So it's an online course, and it's actually really good to take with your child. So a lot of women that I talk to, they're like, I never learned self-defense, or I don't feel comfortable talking about these type of words, rape, molestation. It makes me feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, that's totally all of us. If we've never learned about anything, it's uncomfortable. So take this with your child. And all you have to do is say hey, did you have any questions? And they can ask you, and then conversation can start. Or take the course first and then try to reteach however you feel comfortable to your child. So it's really important. And my experience, my attack was very rare to get picked off the side of a road by a crazy man who had just been out of prison for other sexual assaults and things like that. But what's happening in real life, what's going to likely happen to our kids or people we know are being abused or raped or molested by people we know and love and trust in our close circle of friends.
Sadly, and that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So definitely you're still at risk of being that person that you're assaulted by a stranger, but more so it's going to be in our trusted circle of friends. And that's where we all let our guard down. That's where we don't educate ourselves. So the course goes over every possible topic of safety. So car safety, internet safety, phone safety, dating safety, how to leave a babysitter at your house safely, running, hiking, all sorts of safety. So it's not just narrowed in on running outside. It's literally everything that I have compiled over 13 years of teaching about safety. It also has other women's stories and experiences. And it's a really, really great course to take.
Yeah. I had the privilege of being able to take your course in person, and I felt like I learned so much. And I took my daughter's in her 20s, so she's an adult, but she is a flight attendant. She's traveling by herself so much. And I just thought, she's walking through dark parking lots. She's going shopping on her own. I just wanted her to have this hands-on training and this experience. And I love the way that you approach it. I love how, you talk about being prepared and not scared.
Yes.
Right. And
that's a big thing is I grew up probably being more taught by fear, and so then it causes anxiety and you're scared that, you're worried about being alone or outside. But I just want to empower women. Like, we hope none of this happens to you. But unfortunately, the statistics are so high. So the RAINN Network, which stands for Rape, Abuse, Incest, and Neglect, states that 1 in 4 women will be raped or sexually assaulted. That is not true at all, because I personally have met thousands of women who have never reported a rape ever. Okay. So that's just what's reported, 1 in 4. And most women don't ever report it. So I know it's higher than that.
Okay.
It's crazy. Like,
that's
it's
so
happening
crazy.
rampantly. Right. And so we just need to prepare ourselves. We're not scared or in fear, but like, we feel empowered. We feel ready. And if something were to happen to us, like, we would have the skills and the knowledge to protect ourselves and then pass that on to our children so they also feel protected.
I love it. I mean, just think about your 12-year-old self that was in that little class with that woman that was just sharing some things, you know, how that actually came into play and saved your life. So imagine like stepping that up to a whole new level and doing these training videos or trainings in person to actually practice. I feel like we never know when we're going to need this type of information and this type of training, and hopefully never, like you said, but it's better for us to have at least some training so that we can, if we are in that situation, we can also survive.
Yeah. I always refer self-defense to this experience. It's always a pop quiz if you've taken my class, but I always say, has anyone ever heard of Chesley Sullenberger or January 5th, 2007? And everyone's like, no. What about the name Sully? Sometimes that will spark, but it's the American Airlines pilot who landed the plane in the Hudson River safely and saved 300 people's life. And this is what I say about self-defense. I'm sure he had to be prepared on all levels, what to do in a bird strike, what to do in a terrorist attack, what to do when your engine stalls. And he probably thought, this will never happen to me, right? Just like, I hope none of this will ever happen to you. But because he was prepared, he was able to safely land the plane. And same thing as self-defense. Put these tools in your toolbox, and we hope you never have to open up the toolbox. But if you do, would you rather have something in there or have no preparedness at all? So it's just a way to empower ourselves and also our children. A lot of women ask me in DMs or in person, like, I'm scared to teach my kids because I'm worried this is going to cause more anxiety. I'm worried it's going to cause them to have these thoughts. I totally understand that. I have 4 kids. And this is my thought on this. Our kids are going to wonder anyways. Our kids are going to hear things at school. Our kids are going to have these feelings that, like, what would happen if I got lost? What would happen if someone took me away from mommy? They're going to have those, whether we talk about
every kid has these fears. Yes, absolutely.
So we might as well empower them so they have a solution. So if they have the scary thought of, like, what happens if someone tries to kidnap me? Then they think, oh, mom told me. I'm going to yell my name and my location. I'm not going to leave this spot. I'm going to go for their eyes. That comes from a place of empowerment and not fear. They now have a solution, right?
Yeah.
So they're not wondering, what do I do? They're like, oh, I know. I'm empowered to do this. And I promise you, it's scary to talk about these types of things with your kids, but you're doing them a disservice by acting like it's not a thing. Like, empower your children. And the more you talk about it, the more normal it will become and the more open they will be to ask you questions and come to you if something happens to them.
Yeah. I think it's a gift. I'm with you with that thinking. I feel like that's something that I felt very strongly with my kids when I was raising them, that I wanted them to learn about things from me in a way that, you know, I could help them to have confidence and be able to be prepared for different situations that, you know, I knew that they would maybe, you know, like they were likely to be faced with, but you never know if they would be for sure or not. But yeah, I feel like that was something that was helpful for both of them. And, you know, going along with what you're talking about with Sully, my son is a pilot, and I can attest that when he goes through when he's gone through his training, they literally push the pilot and they push planes beyond their limits to put them in the worst situations and scenarios so that they can think clearly during that time and get themselves back into safety and to save other people. So it's so important. It's one of those things that I know it's not something we like to think about, but if we can have some kind of plan in our minds and in our pocket, then we are more likely to have success and to be able to survive different scary situations like that. So yeah, I love that you are doing that. I think the tips that you've shared with us, you know, just even those little things like, you know, saying your name and your location. I never had heard that before, but that made so much sense.
Yeah. And along those lines, so if you go to my Instagram, I do 2 safety tips a week. So many safety tips you can scroll by and you'll see they shoot straight down a column. It's labeled safety tip, everything, how to drive in an Uber or a Lyft safely. Why we shouldn't force our kids to give hugs to grandma and grandpa, and how to help them be loving in a different way by whole 1,000 different things. So go and look those. But one of these tips here that goes with like the yelling your name and your location, this is actually one of my favorite things to teach. So yelling and screaming are two totally different things. So how many times have you been outside and you heard kids just screaming in the park?
You just ignore it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you didn't think anything of it, right? You probably never called for help or thought someone might need help. But how many times were you outside and you heard people yelling, "I'm being kidnapped. This is not my dad." Hopefully, if you heard that, you'd call for help, right?
Absolutely.
It is everyone's natural instinct to, if they're going to make noise, just to scream like, ah. So I love to do this like experiment, and I've done it with thousands of people. And I say, especially kids, I'll say, "Hey, what would you do if someone like tried to kidnap you?"
Mm-hmm.
And they'll come up with all sorts of different things, but typically they'll come to the conclusion that they'll make some sort of noise.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll yell or I'll scream my name. I say, "Great, perfect. That's actually one of the first things you can do. Show me what you do." And they'll go, ah. I say, "That's super awesome." Like screaming, you can scare them off or alert someone, but you need to yell call to action words so someone knows who you are, where you are, and what's happening. I want you to try. Ready, go.
Mm-hmm.
Crickets.
Yeah.
They cannot vocalize it. You probably were in the class when we did this experiment.
I was.
And what happened?
Everybody gets a little shy about it, but it was helpful once we just started going for it and started using our voice. And it did. There was like this whole shift in the energy in the room. And man, we felt pretty intimidating. We felt like we had some power behind us. Yeah.
Right. But our natural instincts are to kind of freeze up again and like not know what to say. So we actually have to teach ourselves and practice, but also our children. I say every 3 months, sit your kids down, do that same little scenario I just talked about and say, "Okay, I want you to yell your name and your location for 30 seconds. Ready, go." And at first they might be timid or not make any noise. And then they'll kind of gain their voice. And by the end, they're yelling and they're empowered. You actually have to retrain your body to learn how to call for help properly. So teach it, try it with your kids and realize that like any noise is great. But if you can maximize the likelihood that you're going to be saved or someone's going to help you, why not? Right. Mm-hmm. So that's a great tip to teach your kids and practice at home.
Such a good thing and something that we can start just right away teaching kids and something that's not too scary either. But all of the other tips that you shared as well, as far as staying in the location and all of this, I think is so amazing. And you girls can go and take these courses. I highly recommend it and follow Robyn on her Instagram because there are so many tips that I feel like I never thought about. Like it was different than what I had seen, on TV or had been demonstrated in a self-defense class. And I just thought, you know what? Yeah, this stuff works. And it's super valuable information that all of us should have for sure. Robyn, before we end this conversation, I want to kind of go into the more personal side of things. So this happened how many years ago?
14 years ago.
14 years ago. That's right. Because this guy's maybe getting out soon. Hopefully not.
Right.
So I feel like things like this happen. And obviously it's obvious to all of us that you've been able to turn the situation into a positive and into something that is helping so many people. But for you personally, what would you say has been the biggest impact on you? What has it changed? How did it change the direction of your life? More than just going and talking about this, but for you personally, how has this affected you?
Oh, that's a really great question. I think it kind of sparked something inside my 18-year-old self that like, I have everything it takes inside of me to be powerful and to protect myself. And I have this like feminine energy and power that like I can channel into other ways outside of like teaching safety. It taught me resilience. It taught me, it connected me to my spiritual side and like connecting to God and like listening to my own intuition. I could go on and on and on, but also I would think the biggest thing is it taught me that I have a choice to be a victim or a victor. Like I could have totally used this experience to just wallow in self-pity and who knows what my life could have looked like. I could have, gone a whole different way, but I chose like, it is a choice. Like this happened to me and this is horrible, but find the good and channel the good and move towards the good. Like I am actually so grateful this happened to me. People ask, if you ever could go back, what would you change? Nothing. If I could go back today and know that would happen to me, it would be terrifying to have to experience that again, but I would walk straight onto that trail knowing that it totally changed my life. It's made me who I am, and it's made me feel strong and empowered and have purpose to help other people.
I love that you are sharing all of this because I feel like so many of us, all of us are going to have traumatic experiences. We're all going to have trials that we face in our life. And I feel like it's so important for us in order to heal through some of these traumatic experiences, to be able to turn them into some kind of a positive for our life. And I love the whole victim versus victor. And you certainly are, you're just a heroine. Like you are somebody that has, learned and grown and been able to share so much good in the world. And so we're so grateful that you survived that day and that you're turning this and taking this experience and helping so many people be able to be prepared and not scared.
Well, thank you, Cody. And I just love the community you guys are building and all these beautiful women who tune in. Just know that you have everything it takes to protect yourself, even if you don't feel confident or you feel like I have an injury or I'm too big, I'm too small. You have everything you need. You just need to channel that confidence inside of you and become empowered. And I hope that this has been a helpful episode. And I would love to offer the Mix Hers community a discount to my course. Let's just use like the code capital Mix Hers, no space. And you guys can get $40 off the course.
What? That's so nice, Robyn. That's awesome.
Everyone to be able to take it.
Yay. Okay. Well, our audience is going to totally take advantage of that. So thank you so much. And Robyn, I know you're a busy woman running all of these amazing businesses and doing all the things that you do that's so amazing in this world. So thank you for spending some time with us and teaching us how to be confident and prepared and be able to, turn our tragedies into victories. So thank you so much. This has been a fun conversation.
Thank you. I had a blast and it was an honor to be here.
Thanks. So we'll talk to you girls soon.